Welcome back to another tutorial. Today I want to talk about the camera control UI that exists within Neos. There is a lot going on here, and I'm aware that some users use small parts of the camera UI, but everyone might not be using the fully fledged features that exist in the camera UI, so I wanted to go over it in a quite comprehensive video. If one of these longer form videos isn't for you, then please do ask questions below about what areas you'd like me to focus on, and I can make quicker or shorter sound bites of this video into additional videos for that use case. To do this, we're also going to have to do a little bit of weird camera trickery because I need to record the thing that I use to record my video. So you're going to see behind the curtain a little bit on what I do to record my videos. Let's get going and I'll show you how everything on the camera control UI works. There's some areas I haven't touched, so I'll skip over those, but I have used a lot of it as I've made pretty much all of the 206 or so videos that I've made in Neos for you guys using the camera control widget only. I don't use any external editing software, except when I put the title text on, but that doesn't really count. Everything else is done entirely in-game using camera control. Let's get going. First of all, we're going to start with how you open the camera control UI. So to do that, let me hop over into Smooth POV, and let me open up my dash here. On the right-hand side of the dash, you'll see that there is a button called Camera Streaming. Just click that, and it will open it up. Once that's open, you'll get this camera control window here. This is going to be a bit weird, so try to ignore the stuff in the middle here, because you're just going to be looking into an infinite tunnel. This is the only way that I can really record it. The first thing that you'll notice is that we've got OBS on the right here connected. What this is doing is using a plugin for OBS called OBS Websocket, which is talking to OBS and managing my recording. Without this, I really couldn't have made all of the tutorials, so I thank so much the Neos team for adding this to Neos. Basically, you click this OBS logo button on the side here. I know it might be small. Let me bring things closer. Again, sorry about the infinite tunnel. There's really no way to do this. And you'll see a window here. I can't hit stop recording, so I can't show you setting this up. But basically, it requires you to connect to the OBS WebSocket settings. That's quite easy to do, especially if you're just on a local network, because you don't need to worry about security that much there. It's only available to your own computer. It can't go outside. You can configure it to go outside, but I wouldn't advise it. Once you've got it open and configured on OBS, maybe I'll do a separate tutorial on how to configure that. I think I did that one actually already in the part 1 of this video. This is part 2 of a streaming video that I hadn't updated in a long time. I apologize for that. Sometimes I start series and then forget, or a new feature comes out in Neos and I get excited by it and make videos for you guys on that one. You also see it can do streaming. That's great if you stream. I used to stream. I do plan on streaming in the future, but right now I don't. That will use the inbuilt OBS profile that you've got set up for streaming to stream. And again, with the recording, it will use the inbuilt profile that you've got set up for recording to record. Do try not to confuse these buttons out. I always have the camera control somewhere in view when I'm recording tutorials, because there have been times where I've accidentally hit start streaming. Luckily, the connection usually fails because it's trying to connect to Mixer. Sad face, but I still don't want to end up accidentally streaming to Twitch some random tutorial video. The item down here which says auto mirror on record stroke stream will turn on this mirror to display button over on the left hand side when you start recording or start streaming. I leave it on because it makes sense to me. Sometimes I forget to hit this button, but it's very important to hit that button, which I guess leads me over to there. I'm going to be jumping around a little bit, but that's just because I'm trying to cover as much as possible. Like I said, this may turn into a long form video. If that's not your jam, I apologize, but this is going to be a extensive overview. So the mirror to display button is what controls what your computer monitor sees. So the easiest way to do this and to take a look at this is to turn on this mirror to display button, then use one of the other modes above here, which we'll go into in a moment, and then look underneath your headset, peek through that nose hole, or lift your heads up a little bit and look at the screen and compare what you see on the screen to what you're seeing in game. What this enables to happen is it enables OBS or any other broadcasting application such as XSplit or whatever to capture what's on your monitor, where your VR view is separate from that. So as an example here, I'm always seeing outside my face, so I'm always seeing from my first person perspective, but if I hit third person here, you on the screen, because you're being captured from my monitor screen, will see the third person view, but I will still see the first person view. When I hit Smooth POV, that basically syncs them up. That's mirroring to display, and that's the OBS panel. Let's go into the modes, seeing as I was just covering them now. Smooth POV is exactly what you see. It's Smooth POV. It will smooth the head position. You can adjust that in the settings. We'll go over that in a moment. It's what I use for basically all the tutorials. When you're using Smooth POV for tutorial-based content, do remember to try and bring your inspector close towards you, or your Logix nose close towards you, or go up closer to objects. The first few videos I did, I kind of had them far away, and I had a comment from a partially sighted member of our community who said, "Thank you so much for your tutorials, could you bring them closer?" And I'm like, absolutely. And now I do it every time I try and remember it. You'll see sometimes I forget, and then mid-video I'm just like, I'll bring it forwards, and sometimes I'll go over stuff again just to make sure that they're totally viewable on the video. Do remember that people are watching videos from multiple sources, including mobile phones, so as large as you can make those inspector panels or those Logix nodes is the best way to go forwards. The next one is third person. You'll usually see me starting a video like this. This just gives you context about who you're viewing. You'll notice that third person kind of bobs around a bit. This can make people feel a little bit sick. So what I usually do if I'm standing statically, like if I'm talking to you, I'll go into what I affectionately call podcaster mode or something like that. And that is the world option here. But what I do to enable the podcaster mode, as I'm calling it, is I hit third person, I wait for it to settle, and then I hit world. What this does is locks it in place, so I can jiggle around as much as I want. It will continue to look at me, but it won't move itself. So it's more like having, a podcaster or a selfie cam pointing directly at you. The other thing is it will look at you if you move across great distances. So you can see I'm completely rotating around, and it's just following me quite happily. So do keep that in mind. That's also useful if you've got multiple people in frame for, again, a sort of podcast setup where they're next to each other, or if you're introducing something to the left here. So for example, if I wanted to show off this UI to the left of me, in world mode, it's a lot more easier to look at because the camera isn't moving, and compared to third person mode. I do use third person mode though, because it just quickly gets the camera to an appropriate distance away from me. You can actually configure that distance in the settings as well. Let's hop back to Smooth POV so you can see the next one. The next one is group. Group is a little bit more challenging to deal with, and I don't actually use it that much, but myself and others on Nia should be using it more. Group will attempt to capture the most people it can in a group around you and kind of get as many on camera as you want. Group is amazingly useful for sort of exploring maps or doing sort of fun activities within a group within a Nia session. It will try and keep as many people on the camera as it can, and it will try and follow the group around as tightly as it can. You can think of that as basically like a drone that's part of the group and following you around, but isn't actually part of the group. Games like top-down strategy games where you're delivering units around a sort of battlefield, think of it like that. You've got the camera on top of the group, and it's trying to keep all the group in play so that you can move them around the battlefield. Or at least that's how I think about it. The last one on the list here is manual. What ISVI is doing is, again, using third person to your advantage here. If you hit third person and then you hit manual, now you can actually grab the camera and move it around. So I can bring this back and show you the UI again. Sorry for the weird tunneling. But now we're on manual, so I can take it around and spin it. I can also trigger it here, and it will take a photo. I can also use the buttons, which I'll go over shortly, to also take a photo when it's in manual mode. Manual mode is great. I actually use it over either the finger photo, which I have trouble with my index controllers, or the spawning out of another camera. I just set my streaming camera to manual, grab it, and then hit that trigger, and it will spawn usually where the streaming camera is. I have a video on customizing your streaming camera, by the way, so if you're curious about what's going on here, it's basically my streaming camera is my face again, but with red eyes, so you know that it's recording. Speaking of red eyes, actually, I'm going to jump around here again. I'm sorry for this. The UI is quite large. Isn't that? It should be there. That's probably the camera mode that we're in. Oh no, I know what's going on. I do it. Okay, I can't get it displayed. It might be displaying for other users. I'm just not noticing here. I think it actually... Oh, yes, it shows on anything other than the camera. Now I remember. So if I hop into Smooth POV here, this is just a mirror facet that's on my dash. I'll link to a facets overview, the way you can take another look at sort of how facets work, etc. When this mirror display button is hit, it will do very important things, and I'm going to highlight them. The red eyes reminded me. It'll put this live badge above your head. Let me bring this closer so you can see it. There it is at the top there, that red live badge. That live badge indicates to other users that you're recording them. It's very impolite to record people without letting them know that you're recording them, particularly in sessions which are more locked down. I'm not going to comment on the laws or the regulations of countries, but please ask permission for recording them. And if I see this live badge up here, I'll usually ask someone, hey, are you recording? Because sometimes I'll leave it on by mistake, or other people leave it on by mistake. They're not actually recording, they've just left it on, that's fine. But sometimes they are, and it just lets me know that I'm being recorded, just so I can be aware of, whatever I'm doing is on record. The other thing that it will do is it will hide your current balances. I love this feature as an example of sort of security, and Neos always thinking about your security. You'll see information hidden by alive is where my NCR usually shows up over here. I do have quite a lot of NCR due to my patronage and also the amount of time I've been on Neos, and so hiding the information is quite warranted. That was just a quick interlude back to the mirror to display option. Next to mirror to display are three options here, which is photo, which takes a photo, 360 photo, which takes one of those panoramic photos that becomes a sphere in Neos. If you export it, it'll be one of those sort of weird panorama things, and you can chuck it into panorama software and explore it. The users option we'll go over shortly. The users one is actually a really extensive menu. We'll cover it later. That's it for the bottom bar, except for the users screen, of course. Let's go on to the bar on the left here. Avoid occlusion will configure the camera to attempt to avoid its subject being occluded by sort of boxes, doors, walls, etc. It'll try and sort of dodge or pilot around them, or figure out how to look at you without them. Keep in world space. I actually don't know what that one does, but it might be, I think it might actually be to do with parenting or something like that. I just leave that one on. Like I said, I don't know what every one of these do. I do know that I keep most of these on as applicable. Movement wobble, I think adds even more. Yeah, there we go. Adds even more wobble to the third person camera. For those feeling a little bit sick, I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and turn that back off and head back into here. Aim in front of head will aim in front of the head. I don't actually usually see much difference for that. So right here, I'm in third person mode, not aiming in front of the head, and now I'm aiming in front of the head. There is a difference there, but I don't actually see much of it. Not quite sure what it does. Hide camera will make the camera invisible. You'll just have to trust me on this one. There's no real easy way to show this. The camera is now invisible in front of me. Force eyes on camera will, if you've got eye tracking, not real eye tracking, if you've got real eye tracking, that will obviously take over. If you've got the procedural eye tracking, which most users have, so if you don't have an eye tracker set up headset and you have eyeballs on your avatar, then force eyes on camera will make the eyes of your avatar look at the camera. That's again useful for things like selfies or podcasts. I don't have the issue, I don't have eyeballs, but that's going to be quoted, isn't it? But if you do, then they'll be looking at the camera. Hide badges will do exactly that. It'll hide all the name badges. So now you can see I have no name badges. That's useful sort of immersion and cinematic stuff, but also, your own personal preference. Hide lasers. I recommend for tutorials leaving that one off, but leave it on for if you've got, again, cinematic use. So here I'm triggering my laser and you can't see it. And if I turn hide lasers off, now you can see my laser. If it's a tutorial, you guys need to see my laser, so I use that one off. Show frustum is good for framing. It's kind of hard to illustrate again. What this does is it shows a kind of sort of angled letterbox of what the camera is looking at. It's called a frustum. You'd have to look it up in sort of traditional computer and cinematography terms. It's sort of what the range of the camera looks at, because the camera is basically sort of a projection based on where it starts and where it sees to, and the frustum shows you that. Photo timer will enable the timer mode of the camera, so it will count down the photo rather than taking it immediately. I don't use that much unless I'm in manual mode, in which case it's useful to do that. Show live badge will show the live badge on the feed, although I couldn't quite get that one working. Camera anchors will probably go over on a different video. I just want to go over as much as possible without making this video like 30 minutes long, so we'll skip camera anchors. I'll put chapters in this video as well so that you can skim through it. I know that those don't work on external players. I'm sorry about that. It's the best way I have to sort of break up these long videos. Sometimes there's just no way to do it that isn't long. Okay, so next to that, you'll see these buttons up here. These buttons up here change the perspective of the camera. So as you see here, I'm hitting the down one, and what's actually happening here is it's panning down, and it's actually disconnected from what I'm seeing. So here, I'm looking straight ahead at the mountainous scene in front of me, but you're looking down at the camera control screen because I've panned it down. In addition to that, I can pan it upwards. So if I keep panning upwards, you're now looking at the mountainous scene, and I am looking at the camera control screen. You can hit, there's a reset button here, which will just hit this. These will rotate it. In this case, on the pitch, yaw, roll axis. Always have to do that little wiggle to figure out which one it is after all this time. These buttons up here will change depending on which mode you're in. So if I go into third person mode, again, you won't be able to see these, so I'm just going to describe them. If you hit plus, it will zoom in the camera closer to you. So it's actually coming quite close to my face now. And if you zoom out, it will go out. Rotate will do you're around you as a point, or around you, whatever you're looking at. And then up and down will actually, in this case, move the camera up and down. But do you remember it's angled to look at you? So it's moving up and down, but it's still looking at you directly. And if you hit reset, it goes back there. There are no options on world. World just locks it to you, and then look at the nearest user. Manual, again, has no options on that part of the menu. I wanted to talk about this square that you might be seeing on the camera view here. Again, you won't be able to see it because I can't show you third person. This is always fun. There's a square that will appear. It's got sort of yellow corners to it. You can actually click on other areas and it will look at the nearest user. So you can target another user by just clicking at them. So you'll see here I'm kind of turning to left a little bit because I'm clicking outside of that. You can think of that like a sort of target or face finder, that it's it's trying to target someone to look at. What's going on here? There we go. Reset. We're back to looking at me again. Beneath the all of these controls on the left here, there is this slider here. The slider does field of view. It's not the same as zooming, but it does appear to be the same as zooming. So we can just hit reset and do that. No, wait, that is zooming. Sorry, when I think about zooming in Neos, I think about getting the camera literally close, because zooming is like, using the lens and configuring the lens to look further afield. But because you're in Neos, you can also just move the camera. And so I mostly just move the camera. I don't do zooming, which is why I said it wasn't zooming either. It is. We'll continue. So that moves the field of view, which is basically zooming without moving it. So I can go ahead and look up to the distance there and zoom into this skybox, and you'll start seeing the pixels, as it's not a super high detailed skybox. That's the controls, and that's actually most of the left-hand side of the screen done, except camera anchors, which I'll do next time. On the right here, we've got this settings cog. Let's go into that one. Inside the settings cog, you will see some very important options. Anyone can interact. We'll let anyone else grab the camera. So if you're in manual mode, it'll let other people pick it up. That's useful to sort of do another perspective of the camera. Say, for example, you're recording, but you want someone else to have control over the UI. I can't seem to rotate this today, but there we go. Anyone can interact right at the top there. Render preview for everyone. If your camera, if you've customized it, this might not be the case. In my case, it isn't. If your camera has a screen on the back of it, like the default camera does, then what it will do is it will show that preview for everyone. I recommend leaving that off if you're using a streaming camera, and on if you're not. The reasons behind that are that it shows to you that you are the ones that need to see what's on the camera, not everyone else, at least in most circumstances here. Well, you'll always be seeing the preview on the camera control window anyway, but that just lets other people see it. Again, if you've got a cinematographer that's filming for you, is that the right term? Whatever. No, whatever the term for the one that holds the camera is. I don't know the terminology. I do it, but I don't know the terminology. Then they can see the preview too. Beneath that is a very, very, very important one called Render Private UI. I recommend leaving this off 90% of the time, because what it does is it will hide your private UI. So I'm going to turn this off now. Boom. You can't see basically anything teal, and you also won't be able to see my dash. You'll see my dash. Now you can't. Now you can. That will hide important things like messages. NCR, if you don't have the mirror to display turned on, it will hide, and it will ensure that NCR details don't show up regardless. It'll hide, like I said, any teal menus. It'll hide your private messages with contacts. It'll hide anything you're doing in your inventory. I usually use it off, and I'll be explicitly stating that I am navigating my inventory, or I'll tell you the path I'm going to. If you've ever heard me say Neos Essentials, like textures, 3D models, or whatever, that's me navigating without showing you it. I should turn it on more, though, because it will actually show my keyboard as well, and sometimes I type things and people can't see me typing, so do keep in mind it also counts your keyboard as private UI. We have to leave it on for this particular video, because otherwise this teal colored window would not be... Is this teal? Cyan, teal, same thing. I'm slightly colorblind, hence the colorblind badge. But anything that's this color will not be shown if private UI is off. Spawn photo in the world will spawn the photo in the world on the camera when you hit the photo button or when you grab it and click it. I leave that on because I really only ever take photos using manual mode, and at that point it's basically a real camera and I want the photo to spawn in the world. Flip preview will flip the preview. I can hit this and you'll see that the preview flips. This is useful for mirrors or perspective enhancements where you're more comfortable seeing what other people would see. So if I go around to third person here and I hit flip preview, you'll see we're flipped. I don't see much use to it, but if you do, that's fine by you. Beneath that is the group settings. Group settings are sort of trying to define how big a group can be. So in this case, group detection radius is set to 2 meters. That's sort of like if people are within 2 meters of each other, they'll be considered a group in terms of Neos and they'll try to be followed. Exclude boundary, I actually don't know. I don't really know much about group. Like I said, I need to use it more. Position smooth speed, angle smooth speed, and framing smooth speed control how fast the camera moves and frames between points that you're looking at. If you're getting dizzy or you're doing videos for potentially dizzy people, you can consider using different settings there. I personally don't, just because I never really set them and I want my videos to feel consistent, so I don't play with it. Maybe I should. Let me know if you think I should. I'm not even going to set them because then I'd have to remember what properties they're on, and I don't want to go back and go through them. I know I could watch the video back, but I just don't want to mess with them, basically. Beneath that is the location marker. You'll see this usually on sort of Google Maps apps or stuff like that as a sort of location thing. This has more advanced settings compared to these buttons up here. They're also easier to talk about because here they are on a thing that you can look at. So here you'll see angle offset. I don't really know what that does. It might have something to do with third person. Let's try that. Oh yeah, whoa, it totally does have something to do with third person mode. So you can see here it's offsetting the yaw that it's looking at me from. That might be useful for certain framing operations. Distance is the physical distance, which I called zooming priorly. I know it's fine. I'm correcting myself. This is what I call zooming because I move the actual camera. If I set distance really far away, you'll see that we're zooming away. This is super useful for certain other videos. I think it's Jax that uses this a lot. They'll like start a tutorial where they're like standing somewhere and then they'll like crank the distance in and be like, yo, hello. Might not be Jax, might be one of the other people that record Neos videos. I honestly can't remember. If it's you, drop a comment, I'll pin it. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember you. Height here does height, so I can just go ahead and be like, yo, bird's eye view. This might be good for some sort of group-based examples here. I think I've seen Hamish use this one for some science-related stuff where they can, they want to look at a sort of bird's eye view of someone exploring a scene or something. First person pictures, offset rolls and offsets are super useful. I actually requested the first person offset one simply because of my face. Pitch will pitch the camera up and down. Roll will roll it side to side. That's dizzy inducing. That's not too much. Offset, which I need to remember, is 0.02. It shouldn't be 0.02. I usually put it on -6. First person offset will affect the camera's offset from your view. I usually use it back a little bit because it gives you a little bit more view of my hands and I kind of talk at this volume. If it's set too far forwards or too far back, you'll see inside your head. You can think of it like a second near clip on your avatar. So it can be useful sort of removing things that you don't want on the footage or adding things that you need on the footage. In this case, I do it so I get a little bit more perspective of what I look at. I just feel it lines up better to what my hands are doing usually in videos. That is it for the location button. The next one is camera anchors. We're going to go ahead and skip that one. We cover the OBS one just at the start. We've been recording for 23 minutes now. Again, I apologize for the length. The last one along the line here is the Twitch one. This is covered in my Twitch series a little bit more extensively, but Neos has full Twitch support for chat. For streaming, you go through OBS, you hit start streaming. Like I said, I kept accidentally trying to stream to Mixer. That obviously won't work these days. But you just put your channel name up in here. It will display the viewer count to the right here. Any events appear on this purple line, such as following, subscribing, rating, channel point usage, etc. Then there'll be connection-based messages here, and then if people are chatting here, then you'll see some results here. I'm just gonna try and come up with a channel that might be streaming. I think ESA is on right now. Get ESA Marathon. Maybe I spelled that wrong. ESA is a European Speedster Assembly. It's like the European versions of Game Done Quick. They're usually streaming during the European hours, so they might actually be beyond. But anyway, I'll show you. If a channel's streaming here, then you'll see chat messages scrolling down. Check my Twitch series for that. You'll also see this window in a lot of the Friday Twitch streams with the Neos team. They spawn it out into the real world. To do that, you just go ahead and hit this sort of half moon icon here, and it pops it into real world, and you can take this around and pull it around and play around with it in the real world. Other people can see this because it's now orange and not this teal stroke silent color. I believe that's it for the camera control. There are final items which I recommend doing, which is before you hit close here, I recommend hitting smooth POV. If you hit close with it on a different mode, sometimes, in some cases, it will leave your camera floating around in the world, or sometimes the camera will go back to the world root and just sit there. I find that creepy. People have complained in the past that my camera is in the world root, and it's because I've accidentally done this, so I always remember to do that now. I think I also added a destroy and user leave to the top of my camera. I have a video on that, so I'll put that in the description as well, but it basically destroys the camera when I leave, so it doesn't get saved to the world. I think I said it's non-persistent as well. That was an old bug. Like I said, it's either fixed by my behavior or maybe some updates to how Neos handles the streaming camera, but it's just a habit I've got into, is I set it to smooth POV and then I close it. It also makes it less disorientating if you close it when it's in a different mode and then reopen it. Sometimes the camera will be in the old location and it will zoom over to you really quickly, which, can be quite dizzying. That's it for the camera UI. That is probably one of the longest videos I recorded. Like I said, apologies for length. I'll go over camera anchors in another video because those are more sort of technical, but that will probably be just after this one, but I didn't want to cut it here and then cover camera anchors. I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.